Chapter 16: When Agile Works Against Customer-Centricity. Quote, Agile does not fix poor leadership, poor management, lack of engagement, company political games, people's ego, command and control culture, poor behaviors, culture, mindset, over-allocation of people, lack of focus and commitment, poor customer focus, poor process workflow, poor communication and collaboration, the lack of collaboration between business and IT, lack of people's motivation, poor HR compensation. Agile makes it all visible and transparent, but a huge intentional effort needs to be taken by those in the process willing to fix such things. End quote. Kleber-Sotte, S-O-T-T-E. Principle 1 from the original 12 Agile Manifesto principles indicates that customer satisfaction is our highest priority. Principle 2 says we, quote, welcome changing requirements even late in development, end quote. Principle 5 is about supporting our teammates and trusting them to do their jobs well. Principle 9 is about the importance of good design. Principle 10 reminds us to be lean, cutting work we should not do. Are these really happening on your teams? Are we using retros to identify problems and waste? Do we fix those problems and cut that waste? Can you imagine if we stopped the project when we realized it was garbage or not quite right for the customer? Are your teams welcoming changing designs even late in development? Are you starting development before you understand what you're building? Many years ago, we were engineering-led, if not engineering only. Developers based screen layouts on a set of requirements. If the screens did what the requirements said, we considered that a success, and we shipped that, whether or not it was easy to use or a good customer experience. This had flaws, including engineers didn't always enjoy designing the screens. For some, it was the worst part of their job. Engineers weren't always good at designing screens. Engineers didn't always have the time to spend on screen design when they needed to work on coding, testing, and other non-design tasks. And how screens looked was usually based on what requirements documents said to create. We were rarely working from deep research into customers' needs and behaviors. We researched target audiences just enough to know what we could sell them. Adding design work to engineering tasks made a developer's day overwhelming and required too many unrelated skills, so we added more roles to our team. This allowed UX as a profession to blossom. Starting in the 1980s, when we had graphical user interfaces, big companies brought in psychology and human factors experts to consider how these interfaces could work and make sense to target audiences and end users. Back in the day, having a user interface architect or user experience designer at your company indicated an investment in matching PSE to the realities, needs, contexts, and preferences target customers had. Fast forward to now, where most flavors of Agile show a complete misunderstanding of, and sometimes disregard for, how we create excellent customer experiences. We see the words customer-centricity or design thinking, or a double diamond shape on Agile infographics or frameworks, but these don't ensure that we gather the right customer intelligence and use it for risk mitigation and PSE market fit. As of writing this, 100% of the articles I have seen published by Agile frameworks on the topics of HCD or UX read like articles compiled based on Googling HCD but not understanding it. Perhaps Agilists enjoy these articles, but HCD, CX, and UX experts can tell that these articles make little sense, are not actionable, and were written by people lacking HCD experience, expertise, and education. Please do not assume that if your Agile framework publishes articles on design thinking, CX, UX, lean UX, HCD, or customer centricity, that the framework understands these, believes in investing in these, correctly integrates CX staff, or gives CX the autonomy they need. Before we can examine how Agile can be more customer-centric, let's look at some ways it can drag us in the wrong direction. Speed over quality. Many companies want to be agile, but implement agile poorly. Many companies want to be lean, but run with an incorrect definition of lean. These poor implementations and definitions often drop us into speed over quality territory. We hear that we should just ship it, and lean is the least we can do to get to the next step. Traditional lean is about identifying and cutting waste to reduce risk, save money, and be more efficient and profitable. Speed over quality is a slippery slope. If speed were more important than quality, then we should optimize every process and team for speed. We wouldn't need QA since our code is probably good enough, and why spend more time checking it for bugs? We'll find bugs later, especially after users report them. We wouldn't need CX or UX. If our PSE are digital, engineers will lay out the screens based on requirements like in the old days. We wouldn't need product managers. Teams can self-organize and self-manage, and we can have a business analyst tell engineers what we're building. We wouldn't need marketing specialists. Sales will decide the pricing and how to present and sell our PSE. We wouldn't need brainstorming workshops. We know the features we want to build, and we'll build them fast. Our company would mostly need salespeople and engineers, or, if we're service-based, those who push new services live to the public. Many companies do not want to compromise speed to improve their quality, even though they claim to want continuous improvement and higher internal and external quality. They will compromise quality to increase speed and will tell you, we can't slow down. We must adjust how we judge our staff. If we are mostly or only watching velocity, how much was done in a certain period of time, then teams are likely to make quality secondary. To be more customer-centric, we must balance working efficiently and creating the maximum possible customer value in every aspect of our PSE. We must start doing the math that will help us know if our drive to be fast leads us to efficiency, high quality, or far from them. We can calculate and estimate the cost of poor quality. We can see the effects of poor quality in our KPIs. For example, did we release something hastily and then see attrition, auto-renew being shut off, or customers downgrading? You rarely hear a complaint that business analysts, CX, UX, or product managers aren't doing their work well enough or to a higher world-class standard. But you will often hear that they aren't fast enough and they slow us down. We try to solve this by giving them less time to do their work and more rigid deadlines. What can UX give us in 2 days? This is the wrong question when we care about quality, customer satisfaction, and loyalty. Transforming toward customer centricity requires us to replace our love of speed with a love of efficiency. Efficiency balances working at a good pace, meeting or exceeding customers' expectations and needs, and reducing or eliminating risks and waste. Figure 32. The Delta CX efficiency model is represented as an equilateral triangle representing the balance between customers' needs, velocity or speed, and lean or cutting risk and waste. Think of these as a three-sided triangle that we want to see balanced. 1. We are inefficient if we work at a good pace but don't meet customers' needs or improve their satisfaction. We may have been fast, but we didn't achieve our customer-related goals. We are inefficient if we get a lot done, but we solve the wrong problem or offer customers the wrong solution for their needs. We are inefficient when we decide to release PSE that are broken or not quite right and will need to be fixed later. Delaying future projects to fix a previous project undoes whatever velocity you thought you had. We are inefficient when we have used thorough research to know what our customers need, but we are ignoring or deprioritizing that. 2. We are inefficient when we get something done fast while allowing or creating risk. Cycles of guesses and experiments can seem fast, but the full arc of time spent plus the negative consequences we had to deal with ultimately make us inefficient. 3. We are inefficient when we fail to identify, document, or mitigate risk as early as possible. End of list. Why do we believe we have no time to do this better now, but we will have time later to fix it? The customer is not in the conversation. A product coach with a variety of Agile and Scrum certifications posted the following to LinkedIn in 2022. Quote, "Imagine your CEO asks you for a feature X. You can either say, 'Give me a goal, is this a feature factory?' or handle it in a better way. 1. Start with why. Ask her why she needs X. The first answer may not be satisfying. Keep asking why until you understand the problem. 2. Ask about success criteria. Ask her how she will measure success. How will she know that the problem is resolved? 3. Reverse engineer your goal. Ask her, if we had done it differently, would it be okay? She may answer something like, well, not really, you need also. Repeat until you are on the same page. Congrats! Now you have a goal to pursue, and instead of waiting for X, she can hold you accountable for the results she cares about. That's a win-win situation." Inspired by an interview with Marty Kagan I watched a few months ago. End quote. Where is the customer in this conversation? Our key question in this scenario is why the CEO needs this feature. What qualitative evidence do we have that this feature is a match to customers' needs? Are potential and current customers pawns we move around a board so the CEO can meet their goal? Problem definitions and understanding should come from researching our target audiences, not from the perspective of a CEO or stakeholders. I also don't understand how, instead of waiting for feature X, the CEO can hold you accountable for the results she cares about. Doesn't the CEO have to both wait for feature X and then hold you accountable for the desired outcomes and results? All PSE conversations must include, if not focus on, customers and the recent evidence we have on their unmet needs. The above conversation appears to be the definition of a feature factory. Stakeholders decide features and order project teams to create these features regardless of the true value to the customer. If we reverse engineer the business goal, we probably also reverse engineer, invent, or assume customer use cases. The feature factory starts with the feature we want to build, and we hope or assume there is an audience who has a reason to buy or use this. The above scenario sounds like not only do we get feature requests or demands from executives, but they will describe the requirements and possibly the exact mechanism. You ask the CEO questions about feature execution until you have your goal. If this is how product, program, or portfolio managers want to work, they might as well get out a piece of paper and have the CEO sketch the screens. We claim we want to get away from being a feature factory, But the advice herein directs you to continue feature factory behaviors and be the CEO's order taker. Product managers and product owners shouldn't be feature secretaries. They should be customer-centric strategists who are critical thinkers. They should be empowered. Challenging the status quo includes telling executives that their feature requests will be considered, but will be prioritized based on known customer value. We're going in the wrong direction. During some of my conference and training sessions, I run a live poll where attendees can drop a dot on a graph showing when they would like to learn that our PSE are going in the wrong direction. Most people place their dots early in the process. The earlier we know, the earlier we mitigate risk and cut waste, the earlier we can course correct. Figure 33, screenshot of a completed poll. Most people would want to know before engineering starts that PSE are flawed and we need to change direction. 2 respondents wanted to learn this while engineering was building. The longer our project goes before we find flaws and customer dissatisfaction, the less agile and lean we are. We are slow and reactive, waiting weeks or months to release something to the public and then waiting again for feedback or complaints. We know that fixing a technical bug earlier saves time and money later. The blog post, Cost of Fixing versus Preventing Bugs, weblink cxcc.to/A160, calculates that for a mid-sized project at Google, 40% of staff time and millions of dollars are spent annually solely on bug fixes. You might see 10x statements like a bug that would cost $10 to fix during QA costs $100 to fix after a full build, $1,000 if the bug is found during integration testing, and $10,000 or more if found after that. What does it cost to fix a flawed concept or customer experience bug before any engineering work is done? What does it cost to change our solution during QA, after a full build, during integration testing, or after that? Given the size of these changes, the required time, and the number of staff involved, it might be way more than 10x. CX is your customer intelligence and risk mitigation teammates. A more mature and customer-centric process finds and knocks out CX bugs before we write code or run public experiments. Feedback from working software. Many companies use methods from books and articles suggesting that early research is unnecessary. Just build your idea quickly and get feedback from early users. Critical thinking questions include, how will you know what to build? How are cycles of guesses better and less risky than working from customer intelligence and good evidence? If we want to learn early if we're going in the right direction, do we need to publicly release an MVP or real PSE? Or can we use user-centered design to know this earlier? How soon can we know if we're going in the wrong direction? Can we learn this before engineering burns time coding bad ideas? Companies often love releasing MVPs or early versions fast, learning from that, and then working on improvements. This is often flawed or doesn't happen as intended for a variety of reasons. 1. These products are often built from little or no research. They are often designed based on hunches, surveys, ripping off competitors, or stakeholders or founders' ideas. 2. If we didn't allow research to guide us up front where it's most vital, will we allow research to guide us after this is released? Usually not. We are sure that our process was so efficient and working so well that we often don't circle back and include better research. We just keep optimizing on small things and making incremental changes. 3. Once the product is released, even if it's only an experiment, the public will see it. Investors, the media, competitors, customers, stock traders, etc., can screenshot it and discuss it. If we then learn that it wasn't a strong concept or design, and we must rethink it, will that be an embarrassment? 4. Despite the iterative nature of the MVP, we often avoid significantly changing or rethinking our publicly released MVP-1. Adjusting or pivoting MVP-1 means we got MVP-1 wrong, and we don't want to admit that. We'll say it's good enough. 5. If MVP-2 looks quite different from MVP-1 because we had to redo it or make significant changes, the public must learn MVP-1 and then relearn MVP-2. This is a negative customer and brand experience. The public shouldn't watch the sausage being made. These iterations should be behind the scenes and during the UCD process. Companies typically use this and fear about rolling out more change to customers as reasons to stick to MVP-1 and only make incremental changes. 6. The best time to learn more and improve an idea is before it goes live to the public. CX has processes and techniques that allow us to test realistic prototypes before we burn staff time and public trust on ideas that could fail in small or large ways. We don't have to go to market to learn whether we should go to market with this idea. We can use UCD to validate ahead of time, learn that the concept isn't a good solution, and pivot or iterate until we find the best solution. End of list. Working software must work for customers' needs, pain points, and frustrations. Looking at this another way, imagine something seems seriously wrong with your health. The equivalent of feedback from working software is better than early research would be to guess what illness you have and try one of the treatments for that condition. After 10 days of antibiotics, you don't seem to be better. We learned from actively treating you that antibiotics weren't the right solution. We still don't know what's wrong or how to fix you, but we can try something else. How about we remove an organ? That's a painful and expensive surgery, and you'll need weeks to heal. But then we would have feedback indicating if that solved your original problem. In the context of a medical example, this approach seems foolish, if not dangerous. It's a slow cycle of guesses where, if we guess wrong at any stage, not only have we administered treatments that might make you feel worse, but we delayed the care you needed, all because we didn't want to invest the time and money to learn first. It's equally foolish and hazardous to believe that we are agile, lean, or fast when engaging in cycles of PSE guesses. Every time a cycle goes badly, we have burned time and money on product management, CX researchers and architects, engineers, and others. You can research and know the right PSE strategies and direction early. Or you can design an idea, develop it, test it, merge it, release it, wait for feedback or complaints, figure out where it failed, redesign, redevelop, retest, etc. Evidence-based design costs less and takes less time. We often end up in a sunk cost fallacy where we feel like we've spent this much and worked this hard, so we might as well release this to the public or keep working on it. It might even be more cost-effective to throw the idea away, but pride and ego block us. Make sure you are guided by research and cost-benefit analyses. Try it. Did we fool them? Visit a site where your company or PSE receive ratings or reviews. Sort by the most recent and read the last 20 reviews. Do customers see your faults and flaws? Do they think our PSE are broken because we designed them to do something customer peripheral? Or did we fool them and nobody noticed our flaws or problems? Reframe the MVP. Books about startups made us think that the MVP is a way to determine what customers want. But to do that, engineering must completely build it, test it, merge it, and release it. You take your chances with real trial or paying customers. The risk is high. When someone mentions the MVP, this cartoon is often referenced. Figure 34, MVP cartoon by Enric Nieberg. Web link cxcc.to/A147. Explained below. The cartoon shows that you wouldn't build a car by starting with one wheel, then two wheels, then the car's body, and finally a complete car. The cartoon shows that an MVP would be like building a skateboard first, then a kick scooter, then a bicycle, then a motorcycle, and then finally the car you wanted to build in the first place. Neither of these is the MVP. Where the MVP is supposedly done right, the cartoon shows a sad face at the first step, the skateboard, and neutral faces at the second and third steps, the kick scooter and bicycle. Why start with PSE that create dissatisfaction? This is customer periphery. In both examples in the cartoon, the early PSE you release to users aren't close to what we know customers need. If users need a car, neither a single wheel nor a skateboard will match their needs. Additionally, since most companies are feature factories, the CX team is typically told to design a skateboard, often without knowing if the car will exist or what customers need that might look like a car. We design for the now and the box we were put in. We cannot think ahead or future-proof the project by designing for the ultimate goal or solution. This creates risk and inefficiencies. Reframe the MVP. If you want to release a slice of something first, make sure that it delivers maximum user value. Instead of a single wheel or a skateboard, it's a small car. The MVP is supposed to be a tiny slice of our proposed complete solution to check that we're going in the right direction. This implies that we designed our complete solution, can break it into pieces, and can prioritize what to build first. We can't know the minimum viable version of something without first designing its full and complete version. Customers don't want minimally viable anything. Customers want maximum value PSE. People who believe in build before learn often ask me how generative CX research can be done before a company has an idea or early MVP. My article, UX Research Without a Hypothesis and for Products That Don't Exist Yet, explains how that can and should be done. Web link cxcc.to/A154. Don't plan or design too far ahead. Lovers of Agile sometimes complain that CX is trying to plan or design too far ahead. People tell generic stories about a friend whose UX team designed something and 3 months later the design was outdated. These anecdotes are used as a reason to block CX or UX from starting their work too early. Someone might even suggest that CX working 2 to 6 sprints ahead of engineers isn't really lean or agile. A later chapter will explain why it is. Planning ahead is important. Our corporate strategists plan now for next year or the following year. Do we accuse them of not being agile or lean? Some of the planning that goes into new iPhone models is started 3 years before the phone's release. Web link cxcc.to/A185. Would we say that Apple isn't lean or agile? A designed solution being incorrect or irrelevant 3 months after it was created raises important questions. 1. Did we know it was the wrong solution and release it anyway? Why? 2. What was this project's strategy? A well-defined problem statement and a CX strategy to address that problem should ensure that our solutions aren't obsolete weeks later. 3. How did we find out 3 months later that the solution was incorrect? Did we learn from controlled evaluative research, or did we release it to the public and then learn that we failed? 4. Who should be held accountable for the design being wrong or immediately outdated? If CX didn't get the time, budget, headcount, or resources to do their best work, the person who blocked them from what they needed should be held accountable for this waste. Were designers treated as order takers and told the exact ideas and features to design, but then we blamed the designers for the solution's failure? The person who dictated the ideas and features should be held accountable. 5. Were these designs guided by current and thorough research? Generative research insights inform designs, and testing helps us know if they're the right solution for the problem we designed. To be faster, many companies skip generative and sometimes evaluative research, assuming that we'll get the feedback we need from working software. We could find out months into our project that we have the wrong solution. This is a risk we should identify and mitigate early. Did we usability test our solution before it went live? End of list. Demonizing designers is unlikely to solve the root causes of this problem. If you believe your designers are bad at their jobs, have a design expert evaluate their work. If they are good at their jobs, then it's likely that something else in your internal process is to blame for this immediately outdated design solution. Is thorough UX work waterfall or big design up front? In a world claiming or trying to be agile, fewer words invite the anger and strong reactions that the word waterfall can. Making speed our top priority, even over PSE quality and customer satisfaction, helps us tell ourselves we're not waterfall. Infographics explaining waterfall typically show phases such as analysis, requirements, design, development, testing and integration, and implementation and deployment. You might think this looks like what our agile teams do now, and you're not wrong. The difference is that waterfall typically requires an entire project to be coded before it's released. For example, in 2012, I worked on the UX team designing the first iPad app for Wells Fargo Bank. This was a roughly 1.5-year waterfall project, meaning the public sees nothing until the entire app is designed, built, tested, and completed. Under Agile, we might have released the foundations of the app and a few core features, and added features monthly or periodically. Figure 35. Agile versus Waterfall infographic from networkinterview.com. It shows Waterfall and Agile being somewhat similar, except Agile is more cyclic. Both Waterfall and Agile show design done before construction. If you've heard big design up front or UX is waterfall, it wasn't said by a CX professional. CX and UX wouldn't use negative framing around their own work. Big design up front is a term someone made up to make the UX process sound like something we don't want. Lengthy, bloated, slow, and risky. Without critical thinking, we could agree. But we would also agree that 6 or more engineers on a project for weeks or months is lengthy, risky, and possibly slow. We don't call it big bloated engineering. Giving each other's work negative names isn't good for processes, culture, collaboration, or outcomes. Sidebar: quick fix versus slow fix, CX work and agility. One CX practitioner wanting 1 or 2 sprints for their work is seen as something to avoid. Ask for multiple practitioners and multiple sprints, and prepare to be laughed at and called waterfall. In contrast, 6 or more engineers working on something for multiple sprints is an excellent agile approach. It's a double standard that our teams will need to address. Our typical solution is to tell CX they must get quality work done in less time. Go faster. Be more agile. Or we request that they lower the quality of their work to prioritize velocity. Considering cycles of work, waiting for customer feedback, and rework that these projects often have, asking CX to skimp on their work is the slow fix. Designing the right solutions for customers' needs will take longer when we spend less time understanding those needs and engage in cycles of live PSE iterations. The quick fix is to hire until you have no CX bottleneck. Give teams the time and resources they need to do great work that won't need to be redone later. More details are covered in the Designing CX Teams chapter. End of sidebar. If it's normal for 6 or more engineers to get weeks to accomplish something, it should be normal for 5 or more CX practitioners to get weeks to accomplish something. Since the dawn of time, design has been, and should be, upfront. We model cars multiple times and in various ways before they roll off factory lines. Wikipedia defines big design upfront as, quote, an approach where software's design is completed and perfected before implementation is started, end quote. It'll never be perfect, but design should be completed before we implement it. How will you implement an unfinished or unknown design? Build, release, then design doesn't work. Knowing that design comes first shines a spotlight on CX's importance as an autonomous domain that can partner with product, engineering, data and analytics, and others. Whether or not someone designs our product well, there will be a design and a customer experience. Invest in having experts do this as well as possible the first time. CX doesn't have to design the entire universe up front, but if this is not a small fix, they must design and finalize a single customer workflow or task. They shouldn't design a micro moment from a longer task, assume it's good, and pass it to engineering for coding. Usability testing should test that whole task or workflow. If we find small or large problems, engineering will not be happy to get change requests or completely new designs. This wouldn't be efficient, agile, or lean. For example, CX shouldn't design entering your credit card when it's part of a complete checkout experience. The checkout is the task, a single user's workflow, and should be designed and tested holistically. It's similar to how we shouldn't skip integration testing because we did unit testing. Figure 36, Scrum infographic from scrum.org. The process starts with a product backlog. Most Agile and Scrum infographics show the process starting with the product backlog, what engineering will build and in what order. This might be the start of an engineering process, but it's not the start of our larger PSE process since it excludes how the product backlog became populated or prioritized. CX architects and designs what ends up in the backlog. Design happens so upfront that it's rarely on Agile and Scrum infographics, but maybe it should be. Agile was meant for engineering. Agile and everything related to it were invented to make engineering teams work faster and more efficiently. Agile was not originally meant to apply to non-engineering tasks. We rarely ask marketing to plan their work in sprints. We rarely complain that business analysts aren't agile enough and need to create a predictable continuous deployment cadence. Nearly zero Agile frameworks correctly understand or integrate CX or UX tasks or practitioners. Superimposing Agile practices on CX work makes as much sense as a CX practitioner complaining that sprint planning isn't using human-centered design. You would laugh at a CX professional who was outraged at developers not using the user-centered design process. Truly empowered teams and a good culture require that we not superimpose one domain's preferences or work styles on another domain. Tri-track Agile, which we'll discuss later, will help us better separate CX work from engineering work. This is ultimately about planning. Give CX enough time to use their methods thoroughly and do high-quality work. This feeds the backlog without delaying engineers, since the time CX needed was planned earlier.